One of the titans of jazz music with an enduring legacy as both drummer and band leader, Art Blakey was a force of nature. His thunderous yet nuanced drumming style was characterized by absurd limb independence and sharp musical intuition. His role as the leader of the Jazz Messengers, a rotating ensemble that nurtured countless jazz luminaries, solidified his status as one of the most important mentors in the hard bop era. Let's take a closer look at his career. Art Blakey was born in Pittsburgh in 1919. It's said that by 7th grade he was already a full-time musician, getting paid to play the piano and be a band leader. In the 1930s he switched from piano to drums.
I was in the club, I was about 13. I was playing piano and I couldn't play good enough. A young man come in called Earl Garner and he took my job. So the boss of the joint told me to go up and play the drums. So I went up and played them, of course, because he had a big Magnum sitting up here, and I went up there and played it.
Through the 30s and 40s, he played with Mary Lou Williams and Fletcher Henderson. He was declared unfit for service for World War II after a steel plate had to be inserted into his head after an unprovoked attack by a white Georgia police officer. In the mid-40s, he joined Billy Eckstine's big band, and it was through this group that he began making a name for himself, and was able to play with Miles Davis, Charlie Parker, Dexter Gordon, and Dizzy Gillespie, among others. In late 1947, Blakey led a group known as Art Blakey's Messengers in his first recording session as a leader for Blue Note Records. It was 7 years later that the Jazz Messengers name was first used. Horace Silver was initially the leader, but after some personnel changes, Blakey became the leader and would remain so until his death. Through the 1950s, the Messengers established themselves as one of the most prominent hard bop groups. Their intense, driving sound was spearheaded by Blakey and his vigorous style. Blakey released dozens of records with the Jazz Messengers, but a couple of the most influential include the 1958 release Moaning, widely seen as one of the greatest hard bop albums in existence and arguably featuring the strongest Messengers lineup with Lee Morgan on trumpet, Benny Golson on saxophone, Bobby Timmons on piano, and Jaime Merritt on bass. Another album, Free For All, was released in 1965 with a different but similarly strong lineup composed of Freddie Hubbard on trumpet, Curtis Fuller on trombone, Cedar Wharton on piano, Reggie Workman on bass, and a young, stellar Wayne Shorter on saxophone. To get an idea of their influence, here's an overview from Alan Goldsher's Hard Bop Academy, the sidemen of Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers. The combination of disciplined, tight arrangements, well-organized set lists, brilliant soloists, fat-free solos, and above all, an uncanny ability to wail their hindquarters off on a nightly basis made Art Blakey's Jazz Messengers one of the most popular, if not the single most popular, straight-ahead jazz combos of the modern era. Throughout the years, the group became a launching pad for a myriad of notable jazz musicians, including Wayne Shorter, Freddie Hubbard, Keith Jarrett, Wynton Marsalis, and more.
I think there's no one in jazz has brought more great musicians than Art Blakey.
Like Miles Davis did throughout his career, Blakey often sought to recruit young and upcoming jazz talent to bring fresh vitality to the Jazz Messengers, fostering their talent and giving them the space to hone their craft. As he says himself, when a guy got big, I'd have to fire him because I couldn't afford to pay him. Then I'd just grab anybody, but I'd pick them out. I'd find out where they come from because I don't put musicians together just because they're good musicians. It has to be a spiritual thing. They have to like each other. I don't want a musician in the band who thinks he's greater than everybody else. If he does, he has no business being here. If you're enjoying the video and want to support the channel, please do remember to like and subscribe. Only 2.8% of you watching are subscribed, so let's bump that number up. If you want to go above and beyond, you can also leave a little tip by clicking thanks, and you can even become a member of the channel with exclusive perks. To find out more about that, you can hit join just below the video. Thank you. While leading the Jazz Messengers, Blakey was still a prolific sideman for a lot of other prominent jazz musicians of the time and appeared on landmark records from Kenny Dorham, Thelonious Monk, and Cannonball Adderley, among others. The 70s heralded the rise of jazz fusion, and consequently the Jazz Messengers' popularity waned, but Blakey persevered, continuing to play, release music, and recruit young talent until his death in 1990. Stylistically, Art Blakey was a very complete drummer. His power and intensity are the most commented on aspects of his playing, but that's just one layer. In both studio sessions and live performances, he brought a vibrant energy to the music, a trait often noted by his peers. But he also had the ability to transition from explosive power to delicate sensitivity, responding with astuteness to the musical conversation happening within the group. In my eyes, it's Blakey's technical control and familiarity with his instrument and his keen musical intuition that define him as a top-tier drummer.
He has a sixth sense about shading. He knows when to push and he knows when to be smooth. He knows that. Phenomenal guy.
This short excerpt from a Jazz Messengers album during a period when Horace Silver briefly led the group before Blakey took over shows Blakey conversing with the lead soloist, adding his own inflections to the canvas of the music, something he was known for doing. Another aspect of his style that's often mentioned is his limb independence. Here's a quote from another jazz drumming legend, Max Roach. Art was an original. He's the only drummer whose time I recognize immediately, and his signature style was amazing. We used to call him Thunder. When I first met him on 52nd Street in 1944, he already had the polyrhythmic thing down. Art was perhaps the best at maintaining independence with all four limbs. He was doing it before anybody was.
I like to be known as an innovator. That's what I am. Because there's all to be played on that instrument's not been played. And see, you got four extremities. You got left hand, left foot, right foot. You ain't supposed to let your right hand know what your left hand is doing or your left foot know what your right foot is doing. Everything's supposed to go in a different direction, but still keep the swing. Keep the swing. You can play loud when you play loud, and when you play soft, don't lose the intensity of the beat. Once you lose the intensity, all is lost, and that's what they're doing.
This solo from a Jazz Messengers gig from 1958 is a great showcase of Blakey's immaculate limb control and the liberty that affords him when soloing. Lastly, while researching Blakey, I found he would often mention politics, race, and social issues in his interviews, and how they would influence and interact with his music specifically.
It's an art form because it is black music. It's because it started in New Orleans with Louis Armstrong. It has a lot to do with the spiritual that come out of the sanctified church. It's like anything else, isn't it? Yeah, it's oppression, and out of it, and our whole society. No America, no jazz. It's oppression, and it came out. Came out of the first line when they marching back from the cemetery. So someone goofed and jazz was born, and it's just one of those things. And I think that God smiled upon us at that time, and he gave us that. It's a weapon and has swept across the globe through political, through religion, through any kind of ethnic groups. Jazz has come straight through.
One of Blakey's tracks, The Freedom Rider, was analysed in an article by Vinyl Me Please, where it said, its title, invoking a civil rights gambit still in progress when the work was recorded, positions it under the banner of jazz as protest, a heritage that begins with the genre's African-American work song roots and continues through every stage of its development. Art Blakey's position as one of the key figures of hard bop era jazz is beyond reproach, and his innovations in the field of jazz drumming will always be a great resource for aspiring drummers.
Art was the volcano, right? when he explodes.
Thanks so much for making it to the end of the video. Do let me know your thoughts on Art Blakey down in the comments section, and let me know if there are any other drummers you'd like me to cover. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.